Maki, and I'm from the Keio Research Institute SFC, Keio University in Japan. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share our projects and experiences in the cross-cultural comparison between music and spoken language. So let me briefly introduce myself. I completed my bachelor's and master's degree at Waseda University in Japan. During that time, I studied music through audio signal processing and human-computer interaction. Afterward, I worked at a bank for anti-money laundering and some financial crime for a few years. And then I came across Dr. Patrick Savage and his music lab at Keio University. He was focusing on cross-cultural comparison of music at that time, and I felt this lab and his research field aligned with my interest in music, so I quitted the bank and was admitted to Keio University and completed my PhD there. Currently, I'm affiliated with Keio as a researcher, but I'm also having a non-academic career. Okay. So today, I will talk about our Many Voices research project and the experiences I have gained through them. This Many Voices initiative is organized and led by Dr. Patrick Savage, who was my PhD supervisor and is currently affiliated with both Auckland University and Keio University. The core research question of Many Voices is, what about music and language is shared or distinct across cultures? Why? So Many Voices aims to compare music and language from cultures and societies around the world to investigate their evolutionary origins and relationships. So far, we have 2 projects, and that one is already published. I will first talk about Many Voices 1, and then move on to Many Voices 2. So we published a paper of Many Voices 1 in Science Advances this May, titled Globally Songs and Instrumental Melodies Are Slower and Higher and Use More Stable Pitches in Speech, a registered report. Thankfully, the editors selected our paper for the cover of the volume. As you can see, there are many names in the author list section, and this paper has 75 authors in total, including myself, and the speakers of 55 languages from 21 language families. I will share more detail about the geographical and the linguistic diversity of our collaborators later. Not all of them are academics, and some are actually musicians, and I will explain why we have come to team up with such a large and diverse group of collaborators for this study in the following slides. To start off, actually, we have a promotional YouTube video showcasing the key aspects of our study, so let me play this first to provide a brief overview of our research.
გაივსე და გაიზარდე. ეს არის ბავშვის დასაძინებელი ნანა.
Are you going to Scarborough Fair? And this cryptic old-fashioned song that I quite like.
Kunji kawalgu yuri naya nargu naya nyamichimitong.
Yaumin pu yauke o lafken ta munyen tain munyen
雙雙飛過萬世千生去，故事都係十分美麗，但係又十分悲慘嘅一個愛情。
Eu tirava a Maria lá do fundo do mar. E é uma canção de roda, hein? Olé, olé, xa kunemicimbi enjengokuthonjiswa kwentombi athi amanxhosa ngamampondo ngumngquzo
Lemoni ligarumini
هي من أشهر الأغاني التونسية.
השיר שייך לרובד הראשון של השירים שנוצרו בישראל.
ಇದರ ರಚನಾಕಾರರಾದ ಕವಿ ಕನ್ನಡ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಮೇರು ಕವಿ.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. So the key research question of this first Many Voices project is like, what is distinct and shared between song and speech acoustically? Music and spoken language are found in all known human societies, and they both serve as means of acoustic communication. Especially both song and speech utilize our voices to communicate with others. Why do we have two different acoustic communication systems that are present across cultures? So what are the differences and similarities among these two communication systems? Many researchers have studied this topic and attempted to identify the specificity of music and language and its borderline. So several papers have already been published on the acoustic nature of music and language, but we noticed that there are limitations to identifying the regularities in cultural diversity and in the continuum of music and language. While music and language vary greatly across countries, we observed that no study had employed more than 10 languages in acoustic comparative study of music and language when we initiated this project. Additionally, regarding the form of music and language, we also found that instrumental, singing, speech, and intermediate forms like chanting had not been compared simultaneously. Therefore, we decided to conduct a more comprehensive cross-cultural comparison. So, in order to account for the diversity of music and language, we had to collect data from various regions around the globe, which marks the beginning of a large-scale collaboration of our study. This figure illustrates the breadth of our collaboration. Still, the Indo-European language family occupies the largest portion of the samples, but we have also collaborated with speakers of various indigenous languages, including Ainu, Tebeo Maori, Amami, Luo, and others. And as you saw in the video, we aimed to collect 4 types of recording from each collaborator, which were instrumental, singing, spoken description of the song, and the recitation of the lyrics. Here, spoken description is used as speech recordings, and the lyrics recitation is chosen as an intermediate form between singing and speech, similar to chanting. We asked our 75 collaborators, including myself, to create these 4 recordings, resulting in a total of 300 audio files. We decided to choose traditional songs for data collection, expecting that they would exhibit more culturally specific features compared to popular music. And in short, we have confirmed that 5 out of 6 predictions for song-speech comparison were supported by newly collected dataset comprising 55 languages and 21 language families. Furthermore, 3 differentiating features, namely pitch height, temporal rate, and pitch stability, have demonstrated a shift of distribution from the instrumental to spoken description, which exhibits a music-linguistic continuum. Through the analysis, we considered slow sound production as a potential key feature differentiating song and instrumental melodies from speech because slow singing may correlate to other features. A stable pitch may require sustaining phonation, and that consequently makes temporal intervals between onsets longer. Even for pitch height, sustained pitch needs a deeper breath, and that leads to an increase in subglottal pressure, which facilitates raising the pitch. Finally, slow sound production may also be beneficial to create synchronization, harmonization, and ultimately bonding among individuals. We are now planning to test the effect of music and language on facilitating social bonding in a second Many Voices project, and I will explain it later. So also, we believe that the number of languages and language families represented in this study is unrivaled in comparison with previous studies. there are still some areas where future research can improve. In this project, collaborators were mainly recruited through opportunistic sampling beginning from Dr. Patrick Tavis' network of researchers. As a result, around 66 of 75 collaborators has completely consist of academics, while the rest were musicians or from other professions. This may be a certain limitation of our work, as music and speech are obviously also used and practiced by people beyond universities, research institutions, and the field of music. Another potential limitation is the degree of education. Like considering the weird acronym, the majority of our samples coming from academics, including myself, indicating those are from well-educated populations and not capturing the diversity of samples in this dimension. And regarding the diversity of samples, here I mean the diversity of recordings. While we were able to collect a large amount of traditional songs and spoken description, but there are like some still limitations to be addressed. Firstly, all recordings are solo, meaning these recordings may lack key interactive aspects of music and language such as synchrony and temporal coordination. The requirement for solo performance may even unconsciously lead collaborators to choose songs suited for solo performance rather than pieces for collective performance. Another sampling issue is intracultural variation. In this study, only a single song was chosen by each collaborator to record, and in most languages we have only one collaborator. So these recordings may have less intracultural diversity compared to the intercultural diversity of the dataset. The same applies to speech recordings. So ensuring inter- and intracultural diversity and collecting data from both solo and group contexts may require substantial resources, but we believe that is where the spirit of big team science becomes essential. Okay, so in the preceding slide, I touched upon the second project of Many Voices, and I'd like to provide more details about this undergoing big team science initiative. The first project, which I discussed so far, focused on testing acoustic differences and similarities between music and spoken language. In the second project, we are focusing on testing the behavioral differences between music and language. More concretely, we are planning to test the social bonding hypothesis. The music social bonding hypothesis predicts that music and our biological capacity to produce and perceive music co-evolve to support our ancestral group living environments. In Many Voices too, we aim to test whether music can enhance the bonding among people more effectively than language. So now I'll explain the current experimental design for comparing the effect of music and language on the enhancement for social attitudes. This study is designed as a multi-site experiment with each collaborator conducting the same experiment at their respective labs. So suppose the figure on the left represents the potential sites where our collaborators are based. In each site, participants are recruited and randomly assigned to one of three groups: the group singing condition, group lyrics recitation condition, and group conversation condition. Group singing and group recitation plays synchronous vocalization communication, and group conversation plays sequential vocalization communication. The current plan is to recruit at least 5 participants per group as a minimum group size. The experiment itself will be undertaken as follows. So at first, each group of participants will sit in a room and will complete an initial survey. The survey includes measures of cooperation and other variables such as demographics. Then, each group will proceed to either group singing, group recitation, or group conversation tasks. The song will be chosen prior to the experiment to be popular in the society of that site and easy to sing. Once completing their vocalization task, participants will take the survey and measures of cooperation will be collected again. So by taking the survey before and after vocalization tasks for each group, we will evaluate how different types of vocalization influence their prosocial attitudes. Okay. And we have conducted a pilot experiment, and this is a figure of the data from the one conducted in New Zealand. The group conversation and group recitation condition had 5 participants, while 4 participants were for the group singing condition. This time, the song Why Does Love This To Me by the exponent was chosen. As you can see, the singing condition shows a noticeable rise in the bonding score after the vocalization task, the green one. And the group conversation task, which is the orange one, also marked a relatively high degree of bonding score, but the difference between pre and post intervention was small. Similarly, the group recitation task, the purple one, also did not show clear improvement after the vocalization task. It is interesting for us to observe that group singing shows potential to outperform group conversation in enhancing prosocial attitudes. We are now also running another pilot experiment in Japan. And this study also adopts a register report format, and we have already submitted the manuscript for stage 1 review. Once we receive in-principle acceptance, we will begin collecting data according to the current experimental design. We aim to collect data from 50 sites through collaboration with more than 70 researchers, so we hope we can collect data from more than 750 participants in the end, which would be a sufficient number to conduct statistical analysis. So to sum up my presentation, I would like to present two take-home messages. The first message is that global collaboration has indeed enabled researchers to investigate more robust and generalizable nature of music and language. At the beginning of the presentation, I introduced the first paper of Many Voices initiative, which revealed acoustic cross-cultural regularities between music and spoken languages, as song and instrument melodies are slower with higher and more stable pitches in speech. This result was not achievable without the collaboration and diversity of 75 authors comprising speakers of 55 languages. In addition to our paper, several large-scale global collaboration works have recently emerged that tackle the core concept of music, including Hilton's comparative analysis between infant-directed and adult-directed vocalization, and Jacobi et al.'s experiment of revealing human rhythmic priors. Global collaboration may require additional efforts like recruiting and coordinating researchers across countries and funding, but those costs would be rewarded with intercultural diversity and intracultural diversity of authors and samples. In the second stage, I would like to discuss aspects particularly relevant to comparative studies between music and language. So that is, large-scale collaboration is also an important approach to gather a variation in forms along the music-linguistic continuum. Music and language are usually contrasted, but these two communication systems do not have a clear-cut boundary, and there are various vocalization forms which exhibit intermediate properties, including recitation and infant-directed speech. Besides, there are many dimensions to consider, including solo group context, emotional vocalization such as laughter, screaming, and crying, and the audio-visual modalities such as sign languages and notated music. In particular, I consider it would open exciting opportunities if we add the dimensions of species and include animal vocalization and communications in this continuum space. Although I did not delve into cross-species studies, this is also one of the important areas that shed light on the evolutionary origin of music and language. So integrating evidence from cross-species studies with cross-cultural studies will enable us to inch further into understanding why we have ended up in acquiring these two communication systems. So I believe victim science will be a key research framework that encompasses a wide range of acoustic communication and allows us to team up with scientists from diverse backgrounds and expertise. So that's the all of my presentation, and these are the photos of collaborators of our first paper, and many of them are also the co-authors of Many Voices too. If you are interested in participating in our Many Voices program, please visit the website of Many Voices, and then you can find the Google form for expression of interest. Thank you very much for listening, and I'd like to answer any questions you have.
Thanks. Are there questions from folks? Well, then I will pop in. So I think one of the, and you may have touched on this while I was dealing with the screaming dogs. One of the concerns, obviously, with cross-language research is the translation between languages. I do semantic priming, so mine's a little bit more crucial. So do you have any comments on the translation process or if you feel like that might impact any of your results, that kind of thing.
Yeah, thanks. That is a really good question. And actually, we had that kind of issue in our first Many Voices project. So in first Many Voices project, so like we asked each collaborator to, create recordings, and we prepared the standard protocol to, to instruct how to record songs. But we like try to avoid to use like terminology kind of like emerge from Western music like system, like the notes or like key or those things, because not all music have those kind of concepts, and also the same applies to language. We also asked each collaborator to segment their speech like according to like syllables or mora or stress or whatever, there's some like rhythmic unit of their language. But we also like consider like if we like put very two specific words, like for example like syllables, and then I thought that would maybe potentially make some collaborators difficult to interpret in their languages. So yeah, so like we try to make kind of like make those instructions a bit abstract, but still try to make sense and understandable for all collaborators. So yeah, so that was like what we had. So I think there are always kind of maybe similar issues, like you want, if you want to do experience, maybe you want to have a very good control, but if you come very specific, then yeah, it will give some restriction in some cultures or language speakers. Yeah, so striking that balance is, I think, the crucial point. Yeah.
Wonderful. And anybody else before I ask more? No, and I really love this slide because it shows the linguistic diversity that you were able to acquire, which is just amazing, especially in Africa and South America, where there are so many different variants that are understudied and underrepresented in science. So I think this is kind of very cool to see that level of representation. But
yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
if there were other, like looking at this for Many Voices too, are there other places that you would like to represent or language? Again, because you're doing spoken language, so it's a little different since I do written language.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Is there anything that you feel like you missed?
Well, we feel I think of course we can there are still some areas like we could not represent enough. For example, like Southeast Asians are like kind of scarce in this plot, but more than that, key limitation we had in first Many Voices is the author diversity, because actually Many Voices in Many Voices one, so we asked each like authors to make recording, but each author is also kind of like recruited through our academic network, so they are kind of from academics. So in the next part, like we are trying to increase the like diversity of like demographic, or not like only academics, but just from people doing other professions. Yeah, so I think that is a point when we are thinking more about. Yeah, relying on academic network is kind of easy to like help people like recruiting students in university, but we think we should try like a little bit more like inclusive approach to gather data.
Thanks. Wonderful. I had another thought, but it's gone because it's so early here. But I will wrap this one up since it's time, and I want to be respectful of folks' time. The next session will start in 5 minutes. And thank you very much for coming and presenting this. It's very cool. And hopefully some folks from here are interested in joining. I cannot sing to save my life, so you don't want a recording from me. But
I should.
I do think this is a very cool study, looking at the kind of crossover between those two modalities.
Thank you very much.